Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining today's first live stream news summary from Moscow program. And happy April Fool Day, Fool's Day, everybody who knows what it is. I can understand that not in all parts of this world it's the same stuff, but nevertheless, yeah, be careful today. You might hear some quite a stuff that should not be believed. But yeah, anyways, all news that I have prepared for you is actually actual news, real news. You can check any of it, of course. Although I remember in the old days when I was living in Georgia and working in the journalism, by the way, and I worked in best news agencies out there. On April 1st, we were publishing actually with the serious language, with this, with all seriousness, some crazy news, and sometimes, and you know what is the specific of news agency, by the way, we were we had always most information that there was, right? That's the power of news agency, and we were sharing information with their newspapers, radio, TV, everybody, journalists, magazines, journals, and so on. And on April Fool's Day, we were publishing some crazy stuff, joke as a joke, but with a serious language. And in some offices, people were either missing the point that it's April's 1st, or I don't know what was happening. They were actually publishing those news. And every now and then we were ending up in some situation when in newspapers for several days there was discussion about some fictional stuff that we just made up for specifically for 1st of April. So yes, sir, in our part of the world we did that kind of jokes. So okay, it's the 1st of April, of course, 12 p.m. Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you'll find the news update informative and useful. After live stream, videos will be unlisted, and original links will be published on my Patreon and Boosty pages, so that members of our Patreon and Boosty community will have an opportunity to take a look at the full videos whenever they want, either on YouTube or on Rumble, whichever they prefer. And also, if there is no technical some issues on either Patreon or Boosty, I'm always uploading full video on the platforms too. So I'm not just publishing original links, but I'm also uploading full videos, just in case some members prefer to watch video on those platforms, Patreon and Boosty. And in case, dear friends, you appreciate my work, in case you like it and want to support and can support, I will drop a link to my Patreon page in the chat now, and you can click there. You will go to the page, and it's then intuitive. Really, it's easy to. Oh, that's a wrong one. Okay, that was the wrong one. Let me copy the link properly, and that's a correct one. I will drop link in both pages, in YouTube and Rumble, and so yes, you can click there and take a look at the page if you want to. Of course, that will be great support. And I want to thank Thomas for joining our Patreon community yesterday. Thank you very much, Thomas. You're welcome. More people will join Patreon or Boosty, of course, or more chances will be that finally at some point, hopefully this year, this project will no longer be in a freaking survival mode, which is going on for, I don't know, 4 years now, when it's a constant struggle for survival. So yes, it will be great support, of course, if you can join our Patreon and Boosty. And during the stream, dear friends, you can, of course, use Super Chat feature on Rumble. I'm streaming on both my channels. You can use Super Chat on Rumble or send your question or the commenter or the donation through PayPal or Boosty, and I will react on it as I always do. Okay, that's being said, all the links in any case are under this video in the description box. Now let's go through some news, and well, unfortunately I have to start with the tragic news that happened with the Russian An-26 aircraft and members of the crew and people that were on the board plane crashed yesterday at approximately 6 p.m. in the evening. Communication was lost with the plane, and later on it has become known that all 6 crew members and also 23 passengers on board died as a result of this crash. I can give you details on that. So, crash site of the An-26 with which contact was lost in Crimea has been found. 6 crew members and 23 passengers were killed. The preliminary cause of the disaster is a technical malfunction. The Russian Defense Ministry reported plane was Defense Ministry's asset. Search and rescue teams has located the crash site. This is quote from statement. Crash site of the An-26 aircraft. According to reports from the scene, 6 crew members and 23 passengers on board were killed. The preliminary cause of the crash is a technical malfunction. Ministry of Defense stated on the matter. As a source told RIA Novosti later on, An-26 crashed into rock. In some places in Crimea, there is a rocky mountains right next to coastal line, and due to malfunction, according to the Defense Ministry, plane crashed on that. Of course, speculations began straight away yesterday evening, when news broke about plane being lost, and Kiev regime's propagandists claim interception of these missiles, but well, Russian Defense Ministry denied that claim and says that it was a technical malfunction. An-26 aircrafts are old aircraft, Soviet-era aircraft, so well, unfortunately, when you are dealing with an older aircraft, older frame, there is always probability or high risk. One might argue that some technical malfunction might occur, no matter how well you are trying to maintain the plane. Age will take its toll anyways, right? And unfortunately, yesterday, number of sources in the Russian segment of internet also claimed that a Russian Su-34 frontline bomber was lost. Pilot was killed as a result of this tragic tragedy that occurred, and their second crew member survived, although with injuries. That's what I have seen in reports on Russian segment of internet. I did not see any confirmation of this news from Russian Defense Ministry as of now, but well, big Russian Telegram channels report about it, so probably that was the case. Another Su-34 was lost, probably due to enemy fire. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russian armed forces liberated Malaya Karchakovka settlement in the Sumy region. This is northern part of Sumy region, of course. Let me show you a settlement. So this is Malaya Karchakovka settlement. Yesterday, I shared information about progress of the Russian armed forces in this area, and where Russia is, as you can see, their friends Russia is creating a buffer zone. And later on yesterday, Defense Ministry actually confirmed this information. Also, as of this morning, reports are coming in that in the Kharkov region, in the northern part of Kharkov region, in the Volchansk sector, Russian armed forces liberated Malaya Pisarovka settlement. Information not yet is confirmed by Defense Ministry, but probably later on Defense Ministry will confirm this report. On top of that, earlier I reported about progress of the Russian armed forces in also in Kharkov region, in the southern side of Kupiansk, when Novosinovka settlement and Kavsharovka settlement were liberated. Don't be surprised if you hear some similar names of the settlements every now and then. In many cases, many settlements actually have the same name, right? Even in one region, by the way, you might find several settlements that have the same name. In different regions, there is a lot of such cases. Also, dear friends, Russian segment of internet, big channels in Russian segment of internet are reporting about significant progress of the Russian armed forces in Konstantinovka city, especially in the central part of this one of the last strongholds of the Kiev regime in a DPR. And also, earlier, I reported about progress of the Russian armed forces in Zaporozhye, in a eastern flank of Zaporozhye sector, where Lugovskoye settlement was liberated by Russian troops. And this morning, we have reports that another settlement, also in Zaporozhye, was liberated on the border with Dnipropetrovsk region, settlement Boykovo. That's their settlement. And also there are reports, dear friends, reports are coming in that in past 24 hours, the regime's forces tried to launch a counteroffensive on a Grecian direction with their forces of about company. There was an Abrams tank involved there in that operation, number of other armored vehicles, and Russian troops were locked and ready for this attack, and the entire group of forces of the Kiev regime was neutralized. Videos are circulating on internet. I could not show you because of the violence in that video, but clearly you can see in the video frame that entire group, all their military equipment, including Abrams tank and manpower, most of the manpower was neutralized there. Probably some survived and was dispersed as a result of this. Yet another suicidal counteroffensive that Kiev regime launched. The initiative, of course, in Russian hands all along the front line. And as I have said a million times before, in no circumstances either Kiev regime or their Western backers will be able to regain initiative. Impossible. Not happening neither in this universe, neither in any parallel one, if they exist even. Also, dear friends, let me give you an update on work of Russian air defenses. Past night, according to media reports, past night, Russian air defenses intercepted about 4 or 5 dozen of drones in different directions, but in the reports that I see, there was no mentioning of the Leningrad region, although in the past week, also in Monday and Tuesday this week, I think every single day, practically every single day, there were reports that Leningrad region was targeted with waves and waves of drones. Yesterday, for example, 38 drones were intercepted over the Leningrad region. Unfortunately, a number of drones probably did manage to bypass air defenses and struck Ust-Luga portal area, which sustained damage as a result of these attacks. And because this increase in attacks in the Leningrad region lately, at least Western propaganda outlets, Reuters and some others, began claiming that due to these attacks, Russian Federation lost about 40% of its oil export capabilities. Russian officials did not make no statements about it, did not share much of the details about damage that was done in the Leningrad region, not just in Ust-Luga, but in other areas too, where this infrastructure is located. Maybe we will learn some more later on. 40%, it's too big a number. I don't think 40%, we lost 40% of capabilities of our oil exports, but clearly, even state-run media, by the way, is confirming that there was a damage. And in my previous updates, I have shared some photos, some videos of aftermath of these strikes, and clearly damage is serious and will take quite some time before restoration of the infrastructure will take place. And every time when there is attacks on the Leningrad region, veterans of our community know I was always sharing my take on the situation that most definitely Baltic states, Baltic NATO member states are involved in these attacks. And lately, we have more and more confirmations that my reading of big picture was correct. Entire last week, by the way, and even day before yesterday, I believe, drones are crashed. These Ukrainian NATO drones are failing down all over the Baltic NATO members, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland. There was no reports about drones crashing in Poland yet, but according to reports, I have my take, obviously, and I think Baltic Chihuahuas, Baltic NATO member states, not just are providing air space for these attacks on the Russian Federation, which is direct involvement in a war and act of war. But I believe these Baltic NATO member states are providing their ground too for drone launches, which is clearly act of war too. But also simultaneously, there are some speculations on the internet that these Baltic Chihuahuas and Poland, and also Finland, by the way, are providing their airspace to attack and even are creating aerial corridor for the drones, right? And banning all the civilian aircrafts and everything basically from entering that aerial corridor. And I will give you additional information about that in a minute. This scenario includes drone launches from Western Ukraine. Then those drones supposed to enter Poland and through Suwalki Gap enter Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and then either they are striking Russian Federation from Estonia, or they are crossing Gulf of Finland, entering Finnish airspace, and are targeting Russian Federation from the northern side, from Finnish territory. In either cases, because never either of these NATO member states make it clear that they have intercepted these Ukrainian NATO drones or taken some measures to intercept them, that makes them complicit in these attacks. That makes them complicit in these attacks, and I think it's only matter of time, and Moscow, Kremlin will have to green light Russian militaries and security services to take retaliatory strikes on these NATO member states that are involved in this attack. In my personal opinion, such retaliatory strikes should already happen every time any NATO member state conducted an act of war against Russian Federation. But that's my personal opinion. Of course, decision makers here in Russia are very different people, right? And on this topic of Baltic European NATO member states from Baltic region being involved in these drone attacks on the Leningrad region, more and more Russian media outlets are basically openly, publicly now sharing this information. This is no longer speculation on my part, right? Or on the part of some other bloggers here. Bigger media outlets are also entering the scenery and sharing information with public. And of course, more people know about this situation, more pressure there is on the Kremlin to take some steps, because it is embarrassing. It is embarrassing that even these Baltic freaking Chihuahuas, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, are committing act of war against Russia with impunity. It's just totally embarrassing, right? So pressure, I believe, is increasing on the Kremlin, and at some point, I cannot tell you well when, but at some point, some decision probably has to be made, man, right? But as I said, many media outlets are beginning to pay attention to this situation, and Vzglyad newspaper is one of them. I saw an article here on the matter, and let me share with you what Vzglyad is writing about it. So, pattern of Ukrainian drones attacks on Russian targets in the Baltic indicates that Poland and the Baltic states are providing Ukrainian armed forces with their airspace for attacks. Experts do not rule out that this tactic poses a direct threat to Baltics themselves, By using their territory for strikes, Ukraine is drawing the region into escalation, the consequences of which could be unpredictable. Several Ukrainian armed forces drones entered the Estonian airspace on the night of March 31. This is one of the examples. According to Colonel Uku Arol, the head of the country's Defense Forces Strategic Communication Department, the drones were detected by both radar and fighter jets. It's highly likely that we were dealing with the devices that had strayed off course, the military officer stated. That same night, Ukrainian armed forces drones attacked the Leningrad region. According to Governor Alexander Drozdenko, 38 drones were shot down. The three people, including two children, were injured by falling debris in the village of Molotsovo. Damage was also reported in the port of Ust-Luga. Against the backdrop, a political scandal has erupted in Poland. Experts unequivocally assert that the authorities, this is quote by the way, authorities deliberately allocated and provided Polish airspace for Ukrainian drone attacks on oil infrastructure in the Leningrad region, as well as on the ports of Ust-Luga and Primorsk. Stop the warmongers, wrote MP, Polish MP, Vladimir Skalikov wrote this of the far-right Confederation of the Polish Crown. This MP is a far-right member of the far-right Confederation of the Polish Crown, I guess. He's an MP anyways, right? So even Polish MPs now are sharing information that are probably Polish militaries are providing, are facilitating basically these drone attacks on the Russian Federation while creating a corridor, aerial corridor for these attacks in the Polish airspace, which is also act of war. I mean, these countries, Poland, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, all of them are Finland, by the way, all of them are committing acts of war. And of course, leading country when it comes to this proxy war against Russia is US and UK, right? US, UK, France, Germany. Those four are leading countries, UK and US first and foremost. Others are also involved, but we should always distinguish where is the head of this monster, right? The chief of operations command of the Polish armed forces was forced to defend himself. General Kasiusz Klis dismissed the parliamentarians' statements as a false. Really, how those drones end up then in all over the Baltics? How? From where? From Andromeda Galaxy, really? So this general dismissed, but who's going to believe him? Obviously, he will dismiss, because if Poland openly, publicly says that, yes, they are committing acts of war against Russia, then I guess Kremlin will no longer have grounds to continue exercising restraint. I mean, war being declared on you, what exercises you are, what restraint you are exercising, people will ask, right? If publicly are made statements and are acknowledged that NATO countries are actually striking Russia directly. As a reminder, Ukrainian armed forces drones have been crashing in third countries with remarkable regularity over the past week. One drone, for example, crashed in Varena district of the Lithuania. In Estonia, a drone collided with a power plant chimney in Auvere. Local police stated that the debris indicated it was a Ukrainian origin. Another drone crossed the Latvian airspace and crashed in the Kraslava region on the border with Belarus. Last weekend, two drones crashed near Kauvala in southern eastern Finland, and another crashed into the ice in the sea near Espoo. Finnish authorities explained that they did not shut down Ukrainian drones because they posed no imminent threat. However, Prime Minister Petteri Orpo called their incident a very serious matter, which is insane, by the way. None of these NATO countries took any action to intercept these drones, which makes them complicit, obviously, right? Ukrainian foreign ministry apologized to Helsinki. They acknowledged that, that these are Ukrainian NATO drones. So Ukrainian foreign ministry apologized to Helsinki. At the same time, there is no signs of EU leadership willing to help EU countries. European Commission spokesman Thomas Ranier reiterated that the defense against drones is the national responsibility of member states. Well, EU members gonna, of course, play this game that, you know what, we are not involved there. It's just the EU regime is using airspace and we are not assisting them in any way, shape, or form. That's what they're gonna say, of course. What else? Isn't it? Anyways, by the way, that's enough, I guess. That's enough. I just wanted to highlight that more and more media outlets are paying attention to this development, and of course, pressure is increasing on Moscow to take some action, to do something about it, and maybe they will. Maybe they will. By the way, Peskov commented on the matter. Moscow will take appropriate measures if EU countries have indeed authorized Kiev to use their airspace for attacks. Presidential Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov stated, and I don't know, man. Is it a if? Really? Is it a question of if? Yeah. This is embarrassing, of course. This is truly embarrassing, by the way, what's going on. Kremlin now, refuses to believe it's so nice, it looks like, right? Even if Poland or Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia will say that, yes, they are intentionally directly targeting Russia, probably Peskov will come up and say, yeah, we will check if this is true or not, right? And we will take appropriate measures. Really? When? When Russia will have a new president? I mean, I think that's a legit question. When are we going to take appropriate steps? When are we going to deter Western ruling class from committing crimes against Russian citizens? When exactly? It's long overdue, isn't it? And as I have said many times before, man, horrible end is better, always better than unending horror. We should never forget about that. But anyways, by the way, at least Kremlin is acknowledging that topic is being discussed in a society, right? I'm not sure they really care that much what people think, but eventually, I guess they will have to do something. I don't know. Either they will block everything, they will shut down all the media outlets, all the Telegram channels, all entire internet, so that nobody will know what the hell is going on. Either Kremlin gonna do this, and they are clearly on the path towards that direction. They are suppressing everything they can suppress for quite a while now. And no one should be surprised, by the way, if at some point I would not be able to make live streams, because technically it would not be possible. But in any ways, I will make updates. I will find ways to make updates, and I will publish my updates on my Patreon and their Boosty pages anyways, right? But yes, at least Kremlin is forced to react, by the way. And I just read to you that article in Vzglad, isn't it? And their Finnish official stated that they did not intercept these drones because drones were not posing no threat. That was a justification of Helsinki, that not to take action against these Ukrainian NATO drones. And how interesting that exactly in the area of Kouvola, where these two out of three Ukrainian NATO drones crashed, Finnish military died. I mean, maybe coincidence, by the way, or maybe not. I saw on DD Geopolitics this information right there. A great sorrow touches us all. A conscript of the Karelia Brigade has perished today in Kowala in a training situation as a result of accident. Really, on this is this post is from yesterday, right, or day before? From yesterday, yes, from 31st of March. So, do you believe that it was some accident, or you believe that maybe this Finnish military, or do you believe that there is a probability that this Finnish military was killed actually by that crashed Ukrainian drones? I don't believe in coincidences, by the way. I just don't, right? And nevertheless, Helsinki refused to even condemn this this situation when Ukrainian drones were using Finnish airspace, and that makes them complicit. Obviously, they did not take no action. They did not condemn. Okay, man, and that goes not just for Finland, but Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, all of them, by the way, all of them are complicit in direct strikes. And it's a dozen of NATO countries, actually, that are committing crimes against Russian citizens for 4 years straight now, and we never retaliated on any of them. Unfortunately, man. We never retaliated on any of them, man. And if we were some freaking banana republic, okay, one might say, we just cannot do nothing, so let's endure this pain. But, I mean, we are not banana republic. We can actually retaliate, for God's sake, man. We can. And we should. And maybe we will, when Russia will have a new president. That day is coming, man. Thanks God. That day is coming. Putin not going to be Russian president forever, man. Our team, meanwhile, is reporting, and there is a high probability that this war will last for another God knows how many years, man. With such a pace of advances, when hands of Russian militaries are tied behind their backs by Kremlin, when hands of Russian security services are tied behind their hands by Kremlin, of course, speed of advance is relatively slow, and therefore, I mean, NATO countries still have a lot of weapons, a lot of money. So this war might last actually up to, God knows, man, 2028, 2029, 2030, 2035. Eventually, at some point, if this war lasts for so long, at some point, time comes for new presidential elections, and for God's sake, man, hopefully people will elect someone else, man. Not this guy, man. Enough of Putin. Truly, man, enough of him, right? And his freaking restraint policies, man. Just freaking enough. Go have some rest. You did your job, right? Thank you. Go have some rest, man. You don't have to die in a position of president, man. You just don't have to. Anyways, RT is reporting that Zelensky claims that Russia has issued the Donbas ultimatum. Whatever that is, man. Donbas ultimatum. Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has claimed that Moscow has given Kyiv 2 months to withdraw its forces from areas still under its control in Russia's Donbas region. Zelensky made the comments ahead of scheduled talks with the US on Wednesday about resolving the conflict. Zelensky stated that upcoming negotiations with Washington are set to focus on a potential trilateral agreement to end the conflict, and that one of their main issues remains the question of territory. While Kyiv continues to insist on freezing the conflict at the current battle lines, Zelensky claimed Moscow has told Washington that it expects to liberate all of Donbass within the next 2 months. Ukraine has 2 months to withdraw, and this is quote from Zelensky. Ukraine has 2 months to withdraw, and then the war will end. And if Ukraine does not leave, Russia will capture Donbass, and the terms will be different, Zelensky said. paraphrasing Moscow's alleged comments to Washington. Well, okay, 2 months to liberate all of the territory that is still controlled by Kiev regime by force. I mean, that's the area that they are still controlled by Kiev regime. In 2 months' time, this is not happening, man. Unfortunately, that's the reality. If hands of Russian militaries and Russian security services are untied by Kremlin, and if they are able to deploy force that they find, and measures and tactics and strategies that they find are necessary for rapid advances, in that case, 2 months is well enough, man. 2 months is well enough, right? But there is no indicators that Kremlin gonna make the political decision and untied hands of Russian militaries or the security services. So therefore, anyone who says that in 2 months we will liberate all these areas that are still controlled by Q regime is a delusional. Impossible, man. In 2 months, under current circumstances, no, impossible, because Q regime still controls some major strongholds. Konstantinovka, for example, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, major fortified area, Liman, even Kupiansk, by the way, is still disputed between the sides. So 2 months, not really realistic under the current circumstances, once again. But who knows, maybe Kremlin is planning to untie hands of Russian militaries and their security services. I mean, who knows, man? They are not consulting with me, obviously, right? So if they will actually greenlight Russian security forces, militaries, yeah, they can liberate the whole of Ukraine from these fascists, man, in a 2 months' time. I know it's doable, man. 2 months is well enough. Oh, all you need, by the way, just a couple of nukes here and there, right? Slavyansk Kramatorsk is a stronghold, fortified area, really. Be generous, issue 5-day notice for everybody to leave. Both Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. Entire territory, by the way. All of it, right? Entire this area. Issue stricter warning that everyone should leave this area, because it would not be possible to live there after that, physically. And then nuke both cities. Deploy tactical nukes on Slavyansk, on Kramatorsk. Just do it, man. Right? And I'm quite sure after that, Russian militaries will move forward without receiving any freaking resistance. Whenever there is some resistance, some stronghold, tactical nuke goes first, then clearing operation. So it will take maybe a couple of weeks, maybe. And that's why we have tactical nukes, by the way, right? I don't take no nonsense from nobody that, well, nukes should not be deployed ever. Really? I don't think so. Nukes should be deployed, of course, when necessary. And Russian militaries are trained, by the way. Why, when I say hands of Russian militaries are tied behind their backs, one of the reasons I'm saying is that Russian militaries are trained to use all the military capabilities that Russia can provide. That includes nuclear weapons too. We have those nukes not just for fun, man. And if you are refusing, if you are denying your militaries to use all means necessary, you are tying their hands behind their backs, right? They are trained to operate in specific ways. Why you are denying them this opportunity to do what they've been trained for, including generals, by the way, right? Including high-ranking officers that are trained specifically to operate with the freaking armies, man, armies, not just their division level formation, but entire armies. And they are trained to deploy nukes whenever is necessary. And now you deny them this, really? And you expect like miracle to happen? It is what it is, man. Anyways, right? So that's what Zelensky is saying. And by the way, when it comes to modern nuclear weapons, warning actually might do enough, right? Warning might be enough. Maybe demonstration will be necessary too if, let's say, Kremlin made up, change his tactics approach, right? And one should keep in mind that during these high-intensity conflicts, these settlements are obliterated anyways. These settlements literally are obliterated anyways and have to be rebuilt from the scratch, right? And for sake of argument, if you deploy tactical nuke, which is a thermonuclear weapon, by the way, this is not a older generation nuclear weapon, not an atomic bomb, but it's a thermonuclear weapon. And that there is a massive difference between the two. If you deploy atomic bombs, radiation issue gonna stay there for decades and decades and decades and decades. In some cases, maybe for centuries, if not more. Thermonuclear weapons are different. Atomic bombs are using fission reaction. Thermonuclear weapons are using fusion reactions, right? That's physics that are happening in the sun when two different atoms are being fused together and their energy is released. And therefore, during the fusion reaction, there is a radiation, of course, but these radioactive isotopes that are created, their lifespan is much shorter than radioactive isotopes that are generated during the fission reaction, fission explosion, right? And that means that literally in 10-15 years time, in areas where you dropped a thermonuclear weapon, you will find no trace of radiation. Because the half-life of those isotopes are just that short. They are irradiating, right? Disappearing, literally. And physics in our community can confirm this. This is actually science, right? So if someone says, well, that area then would not be usable for another 1,000 years, no, this is not the case. Thermonuclear weapons are operating differently. And I think nukes should be deployed from the very first day, man. I truly believe in that. Once globalists derail, at least once globalists derail their plan A, rapid advance and negotiations, and we were close to succeed in plan A, right? There was a Minsk and then Istanbul talks, and preliminary agreements were reached even actually, but then globalists get involved, the globalists, their allies, and they derailed the peace talks, right? And day after, we should not just launch plan B, but that plan B should include deployment of nukes too. Straight away, man. So many lives would be saved. So many, tens of thousands of lives would be saved. Correct? Hundreds of thousands of lives would be saved. Maybe even more than 1 million lives, because, there is a tremendous casualty numbers on both sides. I will argue that Kiev regime side is suffering much bigger casualties numbers. Some suggestions are that casualty number on Kiev side is over 1 million, 1.5 million, around that, which is unbelievable, right? And most of those people, by the way, were forcefully mobilized. And the Russian side also suffered casualties, right? Probably, I would not speculate because I don't know the exact number, but I'm afraid the number is in any ways in tens of thousands. Overall number of killed and wounded is in hundreds of thousands, have no doubts about it, given the high intensity of their conflict. And none of it would happen if we deploy nuclear weapons, man. None of it would happen. Those people would not die. Anyways, I have to continue with some other topics. And there was two super chats, dear friends. Before I get to other topics of discussion, and the next, I believe, is I mean, okay. I will share this information too, and then I will react on the super chat, and then let's continue with some other news. And so Poland's leadership has decided to conduct a training in the case of war. Polish authorities are preparing for large-scale exercises during which their country's top leadership will practice responses to a military conflict. Their Polish publication, Pospolita, I'm butchering the name of this newspaper, I guess, but anyways, reported, according to this Pospolita, the Polish leadership will undergo special training in their coming days to prepare for the outbreak of a war. According to publication, their exercises, dubbed the Kraj or country, will involve their, or kraj. I guess in Polish it's kraj. That's how it sounds, kraj. In Polish, it means country. In Russian, kraj means just an area. Kind of, not region necessarily, but kind of region, kraj. Anyways, and these are Slavic languages, Russian and Polish, so there are many similarities, obviously. Both languages have one roots, right? So, according to publication, the exercises dubbed the Kraj will involve their prime minister, ministers, speakers of Seims and the Senate, as well as their heads of central agencies and their intelligence agencies. Their main objective will be to test the readiness of state structures to function under their wartime conditions. Polish Ministry of National Defense is organizing the exercises, but its plan is approved by the president at the proposal of the prime minister. The exercise will examine their interactions between key government agencies in the event of a threat to national security. Okay, by the way, okay, exercise. If Russian president was a different figure, not Putin, then Poland probably already would pay dear price for crimes that Poland committed against Russian citizens and all the other NATO member states, by the way, that were involved in this war against Russia. But because Russian president is Vladimir Putin, he will of course exercise restraint because he believes that's the right way to go, and well, he is a president, so he should know better. And therefore, Polish criminal ruling class in Poland can sleep calm. War is not coming, not from our side, by the way. But if I was Russian president, there would be no more Poland on the political map. I can say that. If I was Russian president, there would be no more Poland on the political map. I would evaporate that country, literally evaporate that freaking country from the map. Even for one bullet that they would send to a regime, for one freaking bullet, I would evaporate that country. I would give them a week's notice. Fucking run away anywhere you want. I don't give a fuck. But Poland will be obliterated. I would give them politely 1 week's notice to fuck off anywhere they want towards Andromeda Galaxy if they wish. But I would obliterate this non-entity forever, right? And you can imagine what I would do with the others, man, if I was Russian president. But yeah, I am not. That's a real talk, man, and I'm quite sure vast majority of people here in Russia will agree with me. War was declared on us, right? Unofficially, officially, who gives a fuck, man? We are in a war. So let's do what is necessary, man. Let's kill our enemies, right? What the fuck? How long this nonsense with restraint gonna continue, man? And how many people gonna die when they don't have to, man? You know, drop one freaking nuke, everyone will wake up straight away. Everyone would wake up straight away like that and realize that, yeah, man, they went too fucking far. And they would be terrified. I'm talking about Western elites, man. That includes Polish elites too. They all would be terrified, right? Because they are brave only on the words, man. They never have risked nothing in their freaking lives, ever. And you know, they are all suckers, man. Entire Western elites, all of them. So it's like very easy to freaking terrify them, honestly, man. It's just so freaking easy. But yeah. Anyways, before I continue with some other news, I'm gonna highlight these super chats. One is from both is from Scooby, by the way. Both are from Scooby. Let me share now this, and I will continue with the rest of the news. So thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chats. There was a 2 super chatter, I believe, as of now. And one is this super chat, by the way. Scooby dropped a link in which where I guess there is a video corrector which depicts how childhood looks in Gaza. I can imagine it's a terrifying, you know, situation there. So, dear friends, you can check out this link on Rumble, and also Scooby dropped another super chat. Once again, thank you very much, Scooby, for another super chatter and overall $7 donation through the super chats. And Scooby is commenting, Levan, are you okay with Israel using nukes on Iran the same way you advocate her with Ukraine? Is situations are same, Scooby? Is Israel was attacked, or it's Israel that is committing crime? I mean, there is no comparisons there. West is waging proxy war against Russia since 2008. Some people may don't understand why I said 2008, okay? For those, I will say 2014, when coup d'etat happened in Kiev. And dozens of countries from collective West, since that particular moment, are actively waging war against Russian Federation, killing Russian people. I don't remember dozens of countries attacking Israel. I don't see Israel being Israel's existence being threatened. And if anybody is threatening existence, or if anybody is an existential threat for Israel, is Zionists actually, and their Zionist proxy regime there in Israel. So I don't think this is the same stuff, really. Correct? Am I making my point? We didn't attack the West, did we? We didn't attack Western countries. Correct? It's a Western countries that are attacking us and killing us, our people. And Iran didn't attack Israel. In past 200 years, Iran didn't attack anybody, actually. In past 200 years, Iran didn't attack anybody. Iran was attacked many times, including by Israel and US twice now. So I don't see there is any comparison between the situations, really. So if Israel drops the nukes, we should obliterate Israel with the nukes, by the way, right? Because they are aggressors. We are not an aggressors, by the way. We are defending ourselves, actually. And West began this proxy war against Russia, I said, in 2008, when they used their proxy regime in Georgia, Saakashvili's regime, by the way, to reignite civil war first in South Ossetia, and then to attack Russian peacekeepers and killing and wounding dozens of them, right? Which was an act of war. Since then, Russia is under constant non-stop aggression from the West. So what are we talking about here? If we are objective, then we are objective. If we are not, then, yeah, I mean, so very different stuff, I think, personally, right? There is no comparisons there. We are engaged in a war against freaking dozens of countries from NATO. Correct? We did not attack them. They are attacking us. We did not even retaliate once, for God's sake, man. We did not retaliate even for once. So that's how it is. I don't see no comparisons whatsoever. We are on the right side of history. We are fighting evil force, and we have to use whatever means are necessary, in my personal opinion. And Iran is on the right side of history. Iran is fighting evil force, and will and should use whatever means are necessary to defend itself and the interests of the humanity, because as Russia does, Iran also fights for humanity too, by the way, for all of humanity. That's what happens when you are engaged in a fight against an existential threat for humanity that Western ruling class is. And that includes Zionists too, obviously. So I don't see no comparisons there, Scooby, honestly, man. I mean, how you compare the two? Or you think US and Israel are victims now, somehow? You don't think that, isn't it? That those aggressors are the victims. And I hope you don't buy no freaking Western propaganda and don't believe that Russian leadership just wake up one day and for no reason launch a special military operation. You know the history, right? So it's not us that are aggressors. We are the side that is defending itself from NATO aggression, from the Western aggression. So that's my take. You might, it's okay, but that's my take. I see no comparison whatsoever between situation here and situation with Israel. Thank you very much once again for super chat and the donation. And let's continue with some other news now. And the Middle East, of course, Middle East. Well, and when it comes to Middle East, latest updates are that US allegedly about 350 US militaries have been wounded since the beginning of the war on Iran that US and Israel have launched. As of Tuesday, 348 American service members have been wounded since the start of the military operation against Iran. ABC News reported, citing Pentagon data. So if Pentagon officially is saying, or confirming at least, that they lost 300 plus militaries killed and wounded, then real number probably is like, I don't know, 5 times more, At least, so you do the math. I mean, you don't believe that Pentagon is sharing the true information, isn't it? You don't. Of course they lie, man. Of course they lie. Remember, despite all the videos of attacking just a few days ago that our F-18 was struck by Iranians, Pentagon to nowadays denies that that happened. And there are freaking dozens of videos from numerous angles. Initially, it was a poor quality, then good quality videos emerged. It's so clear, right? It's not an AI, it's an actual real footage. Pentagon still denies. It's that. So if they confirm to ABC News that about 350 people were wounded, then real number probably is like 5 times more, at least, I guess. TASS news agency is reporting that Trump continues to mess around, obviously, and he now is saying that U.S. will end its campaign against Iran within a 2-3 weeks time, which is lie, by the way. So therefore, I would not even go to details of these statements of the Trump. He is lying. He has no freaking idea what's going on. He has been on a hook, right? He's been compromised by Zionists, and globalists, Zionist neocons are basically using Trump as their tool any way they want, right? So they're going to be, unfortunately, this war will not end in 2-3 weeks time, and I'm afraid this war will not end in 2-3 years time either. And earlier Trump was also speculating that he might withdraw basically from this war, even if Strait of Hormuz is not open. Also lies, also speculations. Trump has no freaking idea when this war will end. But what he knows is that every time he makes these kind of statements, oil prices are coming down a little bit, at least for a few hours, maybe day or two even. He knows whenever he makes such statements on a stock exchange, prices are getting a little stabilized, right? Or maybe even going higher. And he and his family members are doing business. That's all it is, man. That's all it is, really. So no one should take any statements from Trump seriously. 100%, man. I remind you that just the day before yesterday, he threatened Iran again with obliteration, including obliteration of their water supplies. And US and the Israeli militaries are actually destroying civilian infrastructure in non-stop regime, by the way, right? On Iranian territory. Pentagon stated that they targeted 11,000 sites. And no one asked what those sites are, what 11,000 sites they targeted. Iran does not have 11,000 military bases. Iran never had 11,000 missile launchers. No one country does. Iran's government state offices, right? Governmental offices are not 11,000. So what are they bombing them? Just US bombed 11,000. Israel probably also bombed, I don't know, another 4,000 or 5,000 places, right? Combined number of areas that they struck could be 15,000 to 20,000. So you tell me, dear friends, what they are bombing? What? Civilian infrastructure, correct? Civilian infrastructure. They are not bombing empty desert. They are bombing civilian infrastructure. And why are they doing this? Because as I said, even before this war began, Western ruling class that makes the shots. Western ruling class and their allies, Zionists and neocons, by the way, they want Iran to descend into total chaos, civil war on ethnic and sectarian lines, and then this violence on ethnic and sectarian lines to spread throughout the region so that Western elites will manage to keep this region cut off from the rest of the world, and especially energy sector of this region, for years to come. And one way to do this is to provoke ethnic and sectarian violence, right, throughout the region. And to do so, you have to obliterate. Iran is a sophisticated state, by the way. I mean, I can understand that very many people in the West, either in Europe or in the US, have no freaking idea what Iran is. I mean, majority probably struggle to find Iran on the map, right? They have no idea what this country is, what civilization it represents, level of development, technological, scientific development of this country. Majority in the West has no freaking idea about any of it, right? But it's a highly developed, highly technological country, of course. And therefore, to descend this society into civil war, to force it basically to enter the fight with each other for survival on ethnic sectarian lines, you have to destroy literally everything. You have to turn Iran into some analogy of modern Syria or Libya, where there is no infrastructure, there is nothing, right? Almost nothing left. Everything is destroyed. Yet again, because of the West, correct? And to achieve this, they have to bomb thousands and thousands and thousands of places, schools, hospitals, water supply facilities, businesses, different businesses. Yesterday, they bombed pharmaceutical company that produces medicine, by the way. Yesterday, Americans and Israelis bombed the company that produces medicine, not our missiles, not our weapons, medicine. Why would you do that? Why on earth you will bomb that facility? Only explanation is that they want to obliterate it as much as possible, all the civilian infrastructure that makes life possible in Iran. They are committing numerous crimes, by the way, numerous crimes against humanity on every single hour. Correct? And so anyone, by the way, that takes seriously anything that comes out from Trump is, I don't know, man. I would recommend to read a couple of more books. Maybe that will help. Maybe. I'm not sure, of course. It is a tragic and unfortunate that Western ruling class succeeded in their plans to keep this region cut off from the rest of the world, or at least partially as of now, because clearly the region is cut off, right? Only portion of their economical capabilities of the region are still connected with the rest of the world. They're largely cut off, and there is all the indicators in place that Western ruling class has no intention to stop. They are deploying more and more US military assets. They are pushing harder for regional parties to enter this war. I'm quite sure they are preparing false flag operation to invoke Article 5 and then bring in NATO countries to all they need to continue this war, instability, destruction in Iran as long as possible, right? For many, many years to come. And that will ultimately keep region cut off from the rest of the world. That's it. And they will find them, they will be okay with that result. Western elites, I mean. And it is really, really strange to me, at least personally, that in alternative media, still to this moment, there is discussions. What is the America's plan? Why America entered this war? What's going on? What is their off-ramp, and how long this is going to last? I mean, I could not believe that none of those people actually understand what's going on, man. Are they this naive, or they just plain pushing these false narratives intentionally or unintentionally? I don't know, man. But this war in the Middle East not gonna stop neither in a 2-3 weeks time, neither in a 2-3 years time. If, of course, if either Russia or China will not make a stand and go for a nuclear standoff with the Western ruling class, because I mean, only thing can deter them is nuclear standoff. Maybe, I mean, nothing else will. Clearly, nothing else will, man. Nuclear standoff maybe will deter them, because their lives will be on the line at that point, and they are not suicidal, man. They are anything but suicidal. So yes, that's why Trump, of course, is not briefed about all the plans that Western ruling class has, but he is briefed about some details, right, to manipulate with him. And every now and then he publicly says about stuff that he's been told, and he acknowledged in his statements that they're gonna go after civilian infrastructure big time, not just energy infrastructure, but water supply too. And that means, by the way, that they want to weaponize the diseases to destabilize, to kill as many people as possible, to destabilize the situation as much as possible. That's why they're going to go after water supplies, and they will, by the way. And Iran is the Middle East. You can imagine what will happen if all the energy infrastructure is destroyed. There is no electricity, there is no water supply, there is no sewage system that is operational, nothing is working, right? It's a heat. You can imagine how rapidly all sorts of diseases will spread, and what that will do to the people. They are weaponizing diseases. It's a biological warfare too that West is imposing already on Iran. Tehran, meanwhile, once again rejected all reports of talks with US, with American side. Abbas Araghchi make it clear. He does make these statements on daily basis, because there is such a wave of false narratives that being pushed by the West, that yes, Abbas Araghchi and some other officials have no option but to debunk all of them, right, on daily basis. And you might be skeptical of my reading of the big picture. It's okay, of course, but can you then explain to me, if Trump is serious about ending this war in 2-3 weeks time, and yet again, man, if you believe Trump is a decision maker, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, man. How you can believe Trump is a decision maker? He is a compromised element that was put in a position of power to make decisions on behalf of his masters, right? Zionists are keeping him on the hook. Zionists are allies of globalists and neocons, right? That's how this system works. But anyways, if anybody believes that this war gonna end in 2-3 weeks time and US gonna withdraw, then can anyone explain to me why they are sending third aircraft carrier to the region? Why they are sending third aircraft carrier to the region? Why they are deploying more aircrafts? Not just aircraft-based jets, but also ground-based jets. I saw this morning reports that in UK, dozen of A-10 ground attack planes arrived. From UK, it will take maybe a day or two, right? They will go some local checkup, refueling, and then towards Middle East. So why US is deploying more and more military assets if they are about to get out of this war? Makes no sense, right? Of course, man. unfortunately, as I said, man, this war will not end neither in 2-3 weeks time, neither in 2-3 years time. Instability in the region gonna last longer, because that's what Western ruling class wants, and they are succeeding, man. They are succeeding, unfortunately. US is losing, Israel is losing, humanity is losing with the whole this situation, but Western ruling class is succeeding because they are pushing their narrative. And that's why I said they are existential threat to humanity, man. Western elites, Western ruling class, because they are. So the US is sending USS Gerald H.W. Bush aircraft carrier to the Middle East, which will create an unprecedented deployment of 3 American aircraft carriers in the region simultaneously, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing US officials. Of course, talks about deployment of this carrier is happening for quite a while now, but I guess aircraft carrier is on its way now. And it will join soon, I guess maybe in a week. It will join Abraham Lincoln strike group. When it comes to Gerald Ford aircraft carrier, it's docked now somewhere in Croatia, I believe, and there is receiving some technical assistance due to fire that was that aircraft carrier experienced, and some other, God knows how serious damage to its different systems. So that carrier, Gerald Ford, is out of action actually. Abraham Lincoln is operational, and this one will be second operational aircraft carrier in the region, because you cannot count on Gerald Ford. It's done for now, and will be down for another 2-3 years. By the way, it's seriously damaged, right? According to reports. Nevertheless, can anyone explain what's going on? Trump says that, well, it may take 2-3 weeks, maybe a little longer, and that's it. It's all finished. So why they are sending freaking aircraft carrier? Another one towards the region. Why they are deploying ground attack planes towards the region? As I said, dozen of them, A-10s, by the way. Thunderbolts arrived in the UK, and they're going to be in somewhere in the Middle East, or maybe on Cyprus soon, like it takes days maybe. And also there is a ground troop deployments, right? That is happening as we speak. So Trump is lying, man. This war not gonna end anytime soon. Unfortunately, only way we can stop Western ruling class is if we will take on a nuclear standoff. But I don't think Moscow is considering that. Otherwise, such a steps already would be made. And China is also, looks like, is not there yet. So therefore, this region gonna be cut off from the rest of the world for many years, man. That's how it is. World should get ready for that as much as possible. Meanwhile, Trump also continues to whine about European NATO member states, how unhelpful they are, and all that kind of stuff. Also, Rubio complains about NATO. This is all deception, right? This is all deception operation. They are quite successfully creating the narrative that European regimes, globalist controlled regimes in Europe, are against this war, and it's all because of the US and Israel this war erupted, right? These European globalists have nothing to do with it. Unfortunately, that's the impression that they actually managed to create in many people. Probably majority of society in Europe believes in that crap, right? There was strong statements made in London, in Paris, in Berlin, this is not our war, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I guess if you conduct some social study in somewhere in Europe, majority will tell you, I mean, yes, Europe is not doing nothing, right? We are not involved. It's their war, right? We are good people here. We don't kill no one out there in Iran. Majority probably will tell you that, while that majorities are misinformed in such a scale that probably it will be better if we call them a freaking zombies, right? They are unrecoverable, those people, clearly. Because UK, by the way, France, Germany, Italy, 4 countries that make quite a strong statements how uninvolved they are, all of them are lying. All of them are lying. Spain is a bit different. At least as of now, it looks like Spain actually is kind of standing away, right? Not involved in this war. If you have other information, please share. But as of now, it looks like Madrid is actually distancing itself from this war. But when it comes to UK, but UK directly involved for a long time now. Maybe British citizens don't know that their airfields being used by B-1, B-52 bombers to directly attack Iran from their territory. That makes UK complicit. There can be no justification for that, those attacks. And as I said, A-10s arrived just this morning, I believe. This morning or last evening. Even A-10s arrived there. US is using British military bases any way they want. So UK is involved in this war, obviously. German officials were making statements that this is not our war, blah, 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 blah. Seriously? How many planes are flying from Middle East to Germany on a daily basis? Most with their transponders being off. Germany, by the way, still is the number one military hub for US in Europe, right? And if anybody believes that Germany is not involved and Americans are flying these planes into Germany and out of Germany without Germans knowing that, then I don't know, man. You know, I have Himalaya mountains in a store and I can sell it to you. What about France? Macron was acting tough, isn't it? That how uninvolved France is in this war. While, I mean, we already know for 2 weeks plus that France has deployed their aircraft carrier towards East Mediterranean, 2 amphibious assault warships, Mistral class warships, and 8 frigates, right? And on top of that, I'm going to show you this, man. This is a plain air refueling tanker, right? That was circulating over France and Italy, over the territories of France and Italy, while providing assistance to US military planes that are participating in these attacks on Iran. And neither Italy, neither France officially agreed to provide airspace. Formally, they both closed airspace for US military assets that are targeting Iran. So you tell me what's going on here. What is plane lost there? Aerial refueling tanker. Any explanations? No. None, right? They all are lying, by the way. They are misleading the public in Europe, these garbage elements that are put in position of power by globalists. In UK, in France, in Italy, in Germany, they are misleading their public, creating this narrative that they are so opposing this war. They are so against it, right? They are so not happy what Americans are doing. And I'm afraid majority of people there in Europe believes in this crap, right? And you might ask, yeah, but what is the point? Why would those so-called elites in Europe do this kind of stuff, right? Why would they mislead the public? Well, you know why? Because when false flag operation happens, when they will invoke Article 5, these local elites will say, you know what, we were against, you know, guys. I mean, we were so against this war. But now, when this happened, this attack, whatever Israelis, Americans, and British Secret Service is going to do, And it's going to be a massive false flag operation, by the way. I mean, maybe on an unprecedented scale, can happen at any moment, any moment. And then we will work on Article 5, and these European elites will tell to their publics that, well, we were all against it. You know this, isn't it? We closed airspace while they did not actually. We did not send our militaries while they did actually. But now when a member of NATO being attacked, we have to invoke this Article 5, you see, and I mean, you understand, isn't it, people? That's what their rhetoric gonna be. You think how they are managing to control people, man, because they are zombifying them, right? They are creating false narratives, pushing those false narratives on the people, and then easily manipulating with their freaking brains. That's gonna happen now too, because in reality, none of these countries, neither Italy, neither France, neither Germany, neither UK, are out of this war. They all are participating, all of them. Spain may be the single European country from the Western Europe at least that actually takes some stand. And I'm not even sure about it, right? I just did not see evidences that Spain been facilitating some military activities against Iran. Maybe tomorrow we will have some evidences that that's the case too. Would not be surprised for sure, but UK, France, Germany, and Italy definitely are part of this war, despite all the false propaganda that is coming from their capitals. And of course, you know, dear friends, that as I have said many times before, Western ruling class is pushing for plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D simultaneously, right? They are not operating with just one plan. Always you are watching, isn't it, all these talk shows and stuff all over the internet, and almost everyone is asking, what is the plan? Did US had a plan? Probably they did not. What Israel's plan? This is all so freaking nonsensical to me personally. All these talks about does the US has a plan or not? Because it's not about what US wants. It's about what Western ruling class wants. And Western ruling class is pushing or implementing not just plan A, by the way, but also, as I said, plan B, plan C, plan D simultaneously. And probably they have another couple of plans in reserve in order to succeed in their attempt of cut off this Middle Eastern region from the rest of the world. And one of their plans that already in the process of implementation is, of course, to provoke a war between Gulf monarchies, these GCC countries, and Iran, right? And that's why Israeli and US militaries, British militaries, every now and then, almost on a daily basis, are destroying energy infrastructure of Gulf monarchies, and they are blaming Iran for that. Just like day before yesterday, they targeted in Kuwait, by the way, they targeted their energy infrastructure that was linked with the water desalination plant. And Kuwait, which is led by puppets of their Anglo-Saxon elites, Kuwait blame Iran for that. And Iranians say straight away, man, you know, whenever we are targeting, we are giving you a freaking notice, right? We are publishing all their data about your assets that we are about to obliterate. So if we wanted to target that shit, we will tell you about it. We would not back down. But we did not. That's what Iranians said, man, that they did not attack that place. So who did that? Kuwait probably did not blow up their own infrastructure, but someone did. And I mean, it would not take it would not take genius to understand that someone is Israeli secret services, US secret services, British secret services, right? That are actively operating in a place. They are committing these false flag attacks on daily basis and blaming everything on Iran. But despite, and why is that? To push these local monarchies, royal families, to directly enter the war with Iran, of course, because that will be their exactly what Western ruling class wants: war, regional war on ethnic and sectarian lines. These Gulf monarchies are Arabs, Iranians are not Arabs. Gulf monarchies are mostly Sunni Muslims, with the exception of Bahrain, while Iranians are mostly Shiite. Western ruling class want to create perfect storm, bloody storm in a region while pushing for these hostilities on violence on ethnic and sectarian lines, right? And every now and then, different Western propaganda outlets are coming up with the articles that, well, this Gulf monarchy is ready to enter the war, that Gulf monarchy is ready to enter war. AP, for example, reported that all Gulf monarchies led by Saudi Arabia and UAE urged Trump to continue a war on Iran, which is nonsensical, isn't it? Longer this conflict continues, there is a higher and higher risk that these Gulf monarchies will lose eventually everything. So I don't think any of those Gulf monarchies actually urging Trump to prolong this war. If anything, they will probably try to influence Trump to get out from the region as soon as possible, right? But in order to further push, in order to put some more fuel on the flames between Gulf monarchies and Iran, all these big names, by the way, in Western propaganda, in Western so-called media, AP, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, all of them are day in, day out coming up with these articles of such type. This Gulf monarchy is about to attack. That Gulf monarchy is about to attack. All Gulf monarchies want US to continue killing of the Iranians and that kind of nonsense, right? This is all BS, man. This is all BS. Saudi Arabia and Iran are arch enemies. Yeah, UAE and Iran may not be best friends, but I don't think the Saudi leadership or UAE leadership are freaking suicidals, really. And the only way they will actually enter the war is if, I don't know, man, they've been blackmailed or threatened in such a ways, personally, them and their family members, right? Being threatened in such a ways that they will just prefer lives of their family members than their own country. That's the only way West will manage to push these Gulf monarchies into a war, because they are not stupid people, man. They are not stupid. They know even if West will confiscate all their possibly trillions of assets that they have in the West, they will make those trillions again. But if they enter the war with Iran, they are finished. Their monarchies are finished. They might run towards UK when they brought almost entire London, by the way. You know that, isn't it? Almost the entire central part of London belongs to these sheikhs from Gulf monarchies, man. Almost all of it, right? And so, yes, they might run towards their apartments, their villas in central London or something, but they're gonna lose monarchies, man. They're gonna lose status. So I don't think they will ever agree entering the war against Iran unless their family members being threatened by Israeli, US, or British Secret Services, their kids, their parents, and I think that's the level of blackmail that Israeli, US, British Secret Services are operating. Really, direct threat of execution of the family members and so on. It might not work, man. Even that might not work. And they're not going to be able to blackmail these people with assets being stolen or something in the West, because they can make those assets again. And they are sitting in the freaking ocean of the oil, right? So they would not care about that too much. But There is a strict push, by the way, strict push that, well, Gulf monarchies either today or tomorrow will enter this war. And of course, this type of propaganda is done on a global scale by the Western ruling class to further increase tensions between Iran and their GCC countries. Also, reminder that these Gulf monarchies are practically run out of interceptor missiles. Before war started, they had about 2,800. By now, according to Bloomberg, for example, they have about 400 left, 400 interceptors left, right? Which is nothing there. I mean, these guys, man, they don't really know how to fight, right? I have seen videos when there is one freaking missile is coming and they are launching, I don't know, man, dozens of missiles to intercept. What the fuck are you doing, man? Why are you launching so many interceptors? But I guess they were operating with their Patriots in automatic mode or something. And, this sort of AI was launching those missiles like it's freaking peanuts, man. So no wonder they almost practically fully run out of interceptors. Also something to keep in mind. And as I said, propaganda is pushing hard, man, that Gulf monarchies are about to enter this war against Iran. For example, Wall Street Journal is also pushing this narrative. UAE prepares to help US and allies open Strait of Hormuz by force. By what force? Wall Street Journal would not elaborate on that. What kind of force UAE has, man? I mean, honestly, UAE has no force. Never did. I mean, UAE is a joke, right? UAE is a freaking joke, man. It was allowed to exist just because it was profitable for the whole region and in some sense for a significant portion of this world. Dubai was allowed to thrive, to be built actually, and then thrive for a certain while because that was profitable for others. UAE itself is nothing. It's never was a force, never will be a force. It's a joke, man. We all know that. So what Wall Street Journal is talking about? But yet again, that's the order that they have, right? Push this narrative that these Gulf monarchies are, and about to enter the war. Maybe some Iranians will be triggered by this, and they will launch some direct attack on UAE political leadership or something, right? And that will trigger other Gulf monarchies to enter the war, and that's the calculation there. Something like that, right? Anything goes, by the way. All Western ruling class wants is to trigger war on regional scale, on ethnic and sectarian lines. And how they will manage to do this, they don't care, man. What it takes. They simply don't care. Anything goes, right? And yet again, man, if only way these Gulf monarchies, UAE or any other, might enter this war is if their family members of rulers of these Gulf monarchies were threatened with execution by Israeli secret services, US secret services, and British secret services. That's the only way they might actually force Gulf monarchies to enter the war. Nothing else will work. Nothing else will work, I think. And even then, maybe, by the way, even threat to the family members will not bring to the Western class results that they they wish, because who knows, man? Maybe they already have evacuated their family members somewhere, maybe in Russia, for example. It's going to be much more difficult for Israelis to kill family members of Gulf monarchs in Moscow or anywhere on Russian territory, because it's not going to be easy. It's doable. They have killed people here in Russia. But it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. So maybe that will not work also, that level of blackmail, right? We will find out. We will find out, by the way. But I think at this point we are entering the stage where literally nothing that comes out from the West can be taken seriously or be believed. Nothing whatsoever, man. No matter how big name is reporting about it, or Wall Street Journal or Economist or I don't know, New York Times or whatever, does not matter. You cannot trust it, and you cannot trust no politician, no public figure from the Western world. None whatsoever, man. That's where we are. And well, Russian foreign, I reported earlier that Russian foreign minister issued a recommendation for his Gulf colleagues to keep their countries out of someone else's war. And Russian president also personally spoke to all the leaders of the Gulf countries right after this war started. And I'm quite sure he also recommended the Gulf monarchs to stay out of this war. Do not enter hostilities with Iran. And Putin yesterday once again had a phone conversation with the UAE leader. I think there was a Putin was worried, or Moscow maybe had some information that UAE leadership might be really struggling to withstand pressure from the West, and they might be pressured into launching a war against Iran. For example, as I said in my previous updates, by the way, I mean, one of the ways how UAE might participate in a war against Iran is to, for example, go for occupation of the islands, disputed islands in right next to Hormuz Strait. Abu Musa Island, for example, this one here, and big and small Tomb Islands, right? These two here. So if UAE, together with US militaries and whomever else, will go for occupation of this island, of course, that will mean that they are openly in a war against Iran. Iran will retaliate, most definitely. And then GCC countries might end up in a situation when they will enter the war too. And Western ruling class will succeed in their plan. So I think Moscow was thinking about the risks there, and the Russian president had a conversation with the UAE leader. Most definitely tried to recommend him to stay out of the war. We will find out soon in upcoming days, by the way, if Putin was successful in this attempt. President Vladimir Putin discussed the situation in the Middle East by the telephone with the UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Importance of rapid cessations of hostilities and the intensification of political and diplomatic efforts towards the peaceful settlement was emphasized. The Kremlin said, in addition, the leaders noted their high level of Russia-UAE cooperation and contacts, which are successfully developing in many areas. Which is true, by the way. Which is true. I mean, Russia actually has quite good relationships with all Gulf monarchies, really. I mean, relationships might be on different levels, but relationships exist and are on a quite good level, including with UAE, by the way, right? Including with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, obviously. With Qatar, we do have some good level of understanding. And so opinion of Russian president has a weight in Arabian Peninsula. And hopefully he was persuasive enough. right, to keep UAE out of this war, man. He also spoke with the president of Egypt, Al-Sisi, yesterday, and of course, topic of negotiations once again was the situation in the region, and who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe if Israel at some point will go ahead with nukes against Iran, whole hell gonna broke all over the region, right? And Egypt might be the country that will put last nail in Israeli coffin. So something to keep in mind too. Egypt might be the one country in a region, from the region, that will put that last nail into coffin of Israeli statehood. Because once Israel deploys nukes, days of Israeli existence are numbered. For sure. There are countries in this world that are top league nuclear countries. They can use nukes whenever they want, really, and no one can do much about it. US is one of such countries. Russia is on same level. China, I will argue, right? India and Pakistan are not there yet. India and Pakistan are in a second league as UK and France. Then comes North Korea in a third league, and Israel is in a street league, right? So if Israel deploys nukes, it's finished. Israel cannot do what US can and what Russia can and what China can if they want to. And that's the reality of the life. That's how it is. So maybe some discussions are also taking place behind the closed doors to on topics of what's gonna happen and how things gonna develop in case Israel deploys nukes. And I don't think Russian president spoke about that particular topic in specifics with Al-Sisi, but leaders talk in general terms, and then experts from two sides go for details, right, and the nuances, so that everyone knows what's going on. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, Iran once again, Abbas Araghchi, Iran's foreign minister, once again make it clear that Iran wants a complete end to the war throughout, and that means not just cessation of hostilities against Iran, but also cessation of the hostilities against Palestinians, against Lebanese people, against Yemeni people. And everyone understands, I guess, Iran is coming from, if Western ruling class fails to keep this region, Middle East, cut off from the rest of the world for years to come, then obviously, region will gain independence from the West, true freedom from the West. US will be forced to withdraw, as UK, France, and other lesser powerful entities from NATO will do the same, and Israel will end up face to face with the region that it was terrorizing for decades and decades and decades. And it's not gonna be pretty, by the way, what will happen there, right? It was never pretty. Israel should never be created, by the way, on the territory of other peoples, right? No one was against Jewish people to live there. and Jewish people were actually living there in peace, by the way, throughout the Middle East. Millions of Jewish people were living in peace, and their solidarity, being a part of local societies, respectful members of the societies. They were doing good, man. But then Zionists, these freaking fascists, create this entity, Israel, and they ruin the lives of not just Palestinians, but also lives of millions of Jews by doing so. But they never cared about either Palestinians or the Jews, by the way. For them, Israel is a tool, right? Is a tool. That's all, man. And Israel always was a tool since its creation in what it was, 47? 47, right? 47, 48. So let's hope Western ruling class will fail, man. Let's hope Western ruling class will fail to destabilize whole region and keep it away from the global economy. But yet again, as of now, unfortunately, Western elites are succeeding because region is destabilized, the region is partially cut off from their global economy. That's too bad, man. That's too bad. RIA Novosti is also reporting that IRGC has threatened to attack their facilities of 18 companies in the Middle East, mostly Western IT giants, right? That, according to Tehran, are complicit in war crimes committed by US and Israel against Iranian people. IRGC plans to attack the facilities of 18 American and other companies in the Middle East in response to Washington's aggression. The companies should expect their destruction of their affiliated units in response to every assassination in Iran from 8 p.m. Wednesday, April 1, Tehran time. Iranian television reported, citing the military wing's statement, and reports are about if Iran goes after assets of IT companies in the Middle East, that might cause significant, allegedly, that might cause quite significant disruption on of internet too on a global scale. I don't know if it's true or not, but in any case, Iran has every right to retaliate on anybody and everybody that are engaged one way or another in this war against Iranian people. So good luck to them, man. That's all I can say. I stand with Iranian people 100%, right? Period. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, well, Abbas Arakchi once again was asked. This is crazy, man. How many times Iranian officials gonna say that Strait of Hormuz is closed only for countries that are in war with Iran, not for rest of the world, man, which is 80% of this world, right? But yes, every day, whenever Abbas Arakchi is giving interviews or any other Iranian high-ranking official, they are always asked, would you open Strait of Hormuz? And I guess all of them are tired now, man. I can imagine Abbas Arakchi being like extremely frustrated because what the hell is wrong with you morons? Probably that's what is going on in his head, right? How many times I have to explain that Strait of Hormuz is not freaking closed for none of the countries that are not engaged in a war, man. But yeah, every time he has to explain this, right? In reality, it's the globalists that are keeping navigation closed in the Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait, not in Iran, by the way. Iran is very clear. Vessels that are linked to US, Israel, and their allies are prohibited from moving around, although also reports are coming in that maybe Iran will just, and that will be correct, right way to do business, I think, to deal with the situation. If Iran will ask her some significant fees, by the way, to the commercial vessels that are linked to hostile countries, right? Ask them like $10 million or something to pay to pass through Hormuz Strait, or I don't know, man. anything, right? But let them have a choice. Let them have a choice. This way, Western ruling class would not be able to blame you no more, right? That you are keeping straight shut. Or even better, man, you're not gonna make right now on their passage through Strait like $1 billion, isn't it? After the war ends, yes, Iran will of course demand certain rights on Strait of Hormuz to make money and as a compensation for all the damage, or as a one way of compensations for all the damage that was done to country. But for now, I think it will make sense, man, if you just are open, make a statement that I'm opening Strait even for US link vessels and Israel link vessels, civilian ones, right? If we have any information indicator that there might be some military assets on vessels, we are taking it out. But if it's a purely civilian vessel, oil tanker or whatever, okay, move around, man. That makes sense, I think, right? That makes sense because what Western ruling is gonna say then? What Western propaganda gonna say? You tell me. They're not gonna blame themselves, isn't it? They're not gonna blame Lloyd's of London, and they're not gonna blame US and Israel because if some vessels are afraid to move around because of the military activities, then who is doing this military activity? Who launched the war? Definitely not Iran, definitely not aliens from Andromeda. It was US and Israel, it was the Western ruling class. Anyways, Abbas Araghchi is making clear once again that as of now, only vessels that are prohibited from moving through Strait of Hormuz is vessels that are linked to Israel, US, and their allies. All the others are free to move around as many times as they want as much as they want as long as they are, keeping contact with the Iranian side to make sure that no freaking situation gonna, unwanted situation gonna erupt, which makes sense, by the way, of course. It's a war going on there, right? And of course, while globalists are keeping this region, Middle East, partially cut off from their global economy, well, already in many areas of this world, by the way, consequences have been felt. And JP Morgan, I reported earlier that JP Morgan, for example, is predicting that oil prices will reach $150 if Hormuz Strait closed for another month. And yet again, it's not a matter of if. It's going to be global. Is not going to reconnect this region with the global economy for anytime soon, or in next several years at least, right? Unless they are forced. And only country that can force them anything is Russia and China, by the way. As of now, we don't really have any indicators that either Moscow or Beijing are planning to force Western ruling class to do anything or to keep them in check, right? So yes, $150 for barrel. Maybe that will happen. Maybe oil will go even higher for the time being. But eventually, by the way, these high oil prices will provoke global recession, possibly even on unprecedented scale. And once world economy is in a recession, of course, demand on oil will drop significantly, and prices will drop too. So if anybody thinks that this high prices, $150, $200, going to stay there for years and years, no, man, it does not work like that. High oil prices will trigger global recession. That will trigger drop in consumption, and therefore automatically demand will drop too, and prices on oil and all the other commodities, right? That's how recession works. But nevertheless, for now and for sustainable future, they're going to be significant for significant time in the future. They're going to be quite an impact that world will endure due to this crime against humanity that the US, Israel, and the Western world basically is committing right before our eyes. And Politico is reporting, for example, that Brussels official urges Europeans to work from home and drive less. Energy commissioner says the oil crisis triggered by Iran war will bring lengthy upheaval in speech reminiscent of COVID pandemic. Okay, by the way, warnings are out there already to use less energy, less everything, right? And stay at home even whenever possible. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. In US, I know throughout the Europe, prices are already increasing on food, or on gasoline, diesel, or on everything, right? US is also not exception. You know, by the way, Trump and his inner circle, his administration loves to say, well, you know, we don't need Strait of Hormuz, or we are self-sufficient, we make enough oil, that we make enough oil to to be good, right? Which is false, by the way. US does not make same volume of oil that it consumes. Never did, actually. US produces about like 14, 15 million barrels a day, consumes 20 million barrels. So from where these 4 or 5 million barrels are coming from, that extra, every single day? From where? Right? So US was never self-sufficient really in terms of energy, but nevertheless, US is not isolated, isn't it, from the rest of the world? So if oil prices are increasing throughout the world, you guess what US companies gonna do, man? They're not gonna sell oil on internal market. They're gonna if Washington introduces some measures to keep prices down. No, US companies gonna sell oil elsewhere, man, to make more money. That's the capitalism for you, right? And so Washington cannot stop increase of oil prices on oil products, gasoline, diesel, and so on. And subsequently, Washington cannot stop increase of prices on all the other goods, brother. All the other goods, including produce and just everything, right? And already, by the way, we have reports that in the US, the average retail price of a gallon of gasoline exceeded $4 for the first time since 2022. That's the average price. Somewhere it might be $5, somewhere might be actually $4. I don't think there is anywhere gasoline in US for less than $4 now. Maybe $3.80, $3.90. It's still cheaper, by the way, than in Europe or in, I don't know, elsewhere, I guess. Because gallon is how many liters, by the way? Gallon is 3 liters, isn't it? 3+ liters. So $4 for approximately 4 liters of gasoline is not bad, actually, right? It's more expensive than price here in Russia, but definitely less expensive than prices in Europe, by the way. But for Americans, this is a big deal, I guess, because just a couple of months ago, gallon was $2 something on average, right? It's 4+ now. And it's a big deal, man. You know, US, there are many settlements in US that don't even have walkways. I don't know why is that, what is their point in this extremely low level of municipal transport throughout the US. There might be some cities that are doing good in this regard, but there are many settlements that don't really have developed municipal transport, don't even have walkways, by the way, people to just go for a little walk, man. Everybody is moving around on the cars. Why? Why? It's crazy. And therefore, they are, if we take just the gasoline, by the way, or diesel, you can imagine how much gasoline they are burning every single week. Probably, I don't know, man. 50 liters, 50 gallons, maybe. Let's say 50 gallons. And so increase in prices will force them, average family, by the way, to spend at least $200 on top of all the other spendings, and prices are increasing on everything, right? So average US household is already minus, I will argue, minus $300 to $500, by the way, just on a gasoline and food prices every single month already. And crisis just started, man. So of course, this situation that Western ruling class created in the Middle East will have a tremendous impact on this world. World economy is destined for a recession, 100%. Of course, some countries will be impacted bigger ways, others less. For example, Russia will probably do much better than most, right? When world economy is in a recession, because we truly are self-sufficient, man. if there is any country that is self-sufficient, it's Russian Federation, man. We have everything we want, man. Right? Everything, literally everything. So in terms of food and energy and all that stuff, right? And the rest also. We are self-sufficient in more than many other countries, at least. And so, yes, man, recession is coming, and it's gonna be hard. But yet again, Western ruling class don't care, man. They don't care. They see real life of real people from armored windows of their limousines, right? That's the only way they actually see ordinary people and their episodes of their lives, right? They don't know what's going on. They don't know nothing. And they don't care, man. You know, you think those people care about, you know, how much bread gonna cost you tomorrow? They don't. They don't, man. Or do you know they even know how much bread costs? Western ruling class, man. Honestly, do you know Western elites know how much is bread in a store? I don't think so. Also, dear friends, of course, I mentioned just gasoline and food prices and stuff, but shock gonna be much bigger. Aftermath of this crisis that Western ruling class created and will push for many, many years to come, if not stopped, will be much bigger, and there are many industries might actually end up in tremendous trouble. One of those industries being flights, commercial airliners, right? Because prices on jet fuel is skyrocketing. Prices on jet fuels are skyrocketing, and thousands of flights already being canceled as of now. And I mean, according to this report that I see on DD Geopolitics, and report is coming from Telegraph, by the way, data from Cerium shows about 7% of global flights were canceled on a recent day. Over 7,000 dispatches in North America, cancellation hit 14.6%. The driver is Middle East escalation. Jet fuel prices jumped from $742 to $1,710 per ton, bottle. Per ton. It's not just doubled, but almost tripled. So you can imagine how much of a shock that is for industry, right? And in many cases, I mean, they cannot double the prices of tickets, those air companies, because they're not going to sell it, right? And they're not going to be able to endure this high level of prices while maintaining current level of flights for much longer. Therefore, they're going to go for cancellations. Obviously, they're going to go for cancellation. They will increase prices on tickets as much as possible, right? And there are a lot of cancellations. So this industry definitely is already is taking big hit. And I will just remind you that Russia made it clear that countries that impose a price cap on Russian oil will not get this very same oil. Russia will refuse to sell the oil to those countries. And it's all Western countries and also Japan. All of them, and collective West countries. They all impose this price cap on Russian oil, isn't it? And they might beg now, Russia, for little oil, but Moscow will say no. At least Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko stressed that official appeals from the foreign countries will be subjected to careful consideration, and no country that imposes those price caps will get any freaking oil from Russia. And that is good, man. That is right approach. That's correct. Dear friends, I have to end this news segment, on something positive, right? World is going down, man. Unfortunately, big time, and that makes all of us a bit nervous, stressful, and so on. And we do need some positive news for sure. And I give you this one, that preparations for the launch of the Artemis 2 lunar expedition have entered the final stretch. The giant SLS rocket is preparing to send their crew on a 10-day flight. Countdown to the launch of the Artemis 2 missile mission has already begun. This Space Launch System rocket, which is about 328 feet tall, is how many meters is that, man? For God's sake, what the heck is wrong with these media outlets? If you are writing in a feeds, then give us some hour metric too. Maybe it's 100 meters. I have no freaking idea, by the way, how many meters 328 feet is. But anyways, it's a tall rocket, anyways, right? So it's scheduled to lift off from the Cape Canaveral, Florida on Wednesday, carrying, that is today, carrying 4 astronauts on a 10-day flight around the moon, ending with their splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. At their briefing on Monday, NASA's chief flight director Emily Nelson said the mission control teams and crew are very much ready for this. Artemis 2 will be the first manned mission to the moon in more than half a century. The last human landing on the surface was the Apollo 17 mission in 1972, although Artemis 2 not going to land, by the way. They're going to fly around the moon and then back to our planet. Unmanned Artemis 1 mission successfully entered the lunar orbit in November 2022. Artemis 2 adds a crew to the program, but landing astronauts on the lunar surface is not planned until Artemis 3. NASA plans to establish a lunar base camp and use it to prepare for a human mission to Mars. The crew includes NASA astronauts Raider Weissman, Victor Glover, and Christina Koch, as well as Canadian Space Agency representative Jeremy Hansen. British astronaut Tim Peake noted that Europe, including the UK, is actively participating in the program, including through their development of European service module for their Orion spacecraft. NASA has launched a window of the first 6 days of April, after which the lunar launch will be pushed back to the end of the month. As Vzglyad newspaper reported, NASA announced the launch of the Artemis 2 manned test flight around the moon on April 1st from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So, okay, by the way, let's wish good luck to this mission. Or no, we should not wish good luck. I think Russian astronauts don't like when they've been wished good luck. Let's wish them successful flight. Yeah, that will be the good. And you know that there is a tradition in Soviet and now Russian aerospace program. Before every launch, there is a specific song, by the way, Земля в иллюминаторе, that is on repeat, right? So everyone is listening. It's a nice song, man. It's a great song, actually. So I don't know what kind of traditions they have in NASA, but yeah, let's wish them success, man. Safe flight. Let's wish them a safe flight. And okay, that's I guess it for news segment. And so, okay, dear friends, I can just in case should I I don't know, man, should I check some media outlets for some breaking news? You know what? Let's check RIA Novosti if there is any breaking news for this moment. It's not even opening, so okay. As I said, man, there is some significant issues with the internet here in Russia. Even state-run or state-financed media outlets are no longer opening, by the way, properly, because of the certain groups in Russian government and close by entities that are pushing to be blocked, pushing for everything to be blocked, right? Every country has people like that. They want everyone and everything to be blocked, which is insanity. But yeah, it is what it is, right? I can at least go for I can at least go for some Telegram channels, right? Let's see if there is any breaking news on any of the Telegram channels in past few hours. Ukrainian channels report drone attacks on Vinnytsia region. There was some Russian drone strikes in western Ukraine too. Vinnytsia is western Ukraine too, isn't it? Russia has no right to leave Cuba, its closer partner in the Caribbean, stranded, so support to this Latin American country will continue, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov told the TASS news agency, and this is good, by the way. I agree with this take. What Stammer is saying here, whatever their pressure, whatever their noise, I'm British Prime Minister and I have to act in our national interests. Stammer on Trump's angry posts. Okay. Let's see what RT reported in past few hours, if anything interesting here. First Russian personalized cancer vaccine administered to patients in Russia, Ministry of Health reported. That's a breakthrough in fight against cancer. Many will argue, and soon this deadly disease will be defeated, hopefully worldwide. UK to host international meeting on resuming trade aimed Hormuz crisis. They create another coalition of willing. Hormuz coalition of willing to reopen Hormuz. It's clown, man. Zelensky needs to withdraw troops from Donbass today. Should have done it yesterday, Kremlin spokesperson Peskov stated on that. Trump seriously considering pulling USA out of NATO, he tells their Telegraph. This is all lies, man. This is all BS. All this show about alleged confrontation between US and European NATO member states and between US and NATO, it's a nonsense. It's a freaking show, right, for the people. They will do false flag operation in any given point now, today, tomorrow, in a week from now, and they will revoke Article 5, and then that's it, right? This is all nonsense. I don't believe anything that comes out from the Western elites, man, including this so-called confrontation on the matter of Iranian war. This is all fake stuff, man. All fake stuff. US not going to withdraw from NATO. NATO is US. What kind of nonsense is that? And some people actually going to believe this, crap. Well, Trump, in this show, by the way, Trump loves to go after UK. He said that you don't even have a navy to stammer, and yeah, okay. I mean, partially this is true. UK does have some assets, naval assets, but mostly garbage. Even new vessels are garbage, so yeah, it is what it is. Six-story building crashed in Tel Aviv, injuring one. Maybe it was some missile strike or something. Could be case. And so, okay, no major breaking news for this moment. And so I will end the update now, dear friends. Let's see how day goes. If there is many interesting, important updates during the day, I will launch a second live stream this evening at 9 p.m. If day is slow news-wise, then see you tomorrow. Thanks for your attention. In case you want to support my work, all the links are in the description box and in the pinned comment. And as this case, always, since the changes, original links to my full shows after live stream will be published on my Patreon and Boosty pages. On YouTube and Rumble, videos will be unlisted. Therefore, thank you all. Have a wonderful day and take care.